Hey everyone, welcome back to Patriot Ridge Farm. It's Mike again, and well, we got the electric cable in yesterday. We got it buried. Got a muddy mess now. We had rain pretty much all morning. So the plan is to finish putting the panel in the building here today and get it hooked up from the house up to here. And then we'll have to run electric from the building here down to the wellhead right there. So the last several days, it's been so daggone hot and humid here, it's ridiculous. It is typical West Virginia summer, but it's simply because we have such heavy vegetation and everything, we tend to really soak in the humidity. Of course, we're nothing like they are down in Florida and the South and everything like that, where it's just miserable down there, but we're pretty comparable. In the last several days, it took 3 days to get the pig moved. That being Coke, the pregnant female, she's supposed to farrow, I think, within the next about 10 days. It's right around the 19th we should see farrowing from her. To move pigs, you've heard of people using the expression herding cats. It was fun. The one female, Peppa, now she moved, no issue whatsoever, but it took 3 days after that to get Coke moved down to her farrowing pen. And as much as I hate to admit it, I had to use a cattle prod. And I know that sounds mean, but she's a 600-pound pig. And she would start through the gate. We were using food and withholding food to get them to move with food and stuff. And I know that sounds mean, but that's really the only way you could do it. And she wouldn't move for nothing. And when she would go forward a little bit, there was nothing going to stop her from backing up. Like I said, when that pig, she's 600 pounds, when she decides she's going to move, nothing's going to stop her. And she actually even tore the gate off at one point. As I finally got her about halfway through the chute, just crossing the road, man, she turned around. She decided she wasn't going to have none of that. I had just got the gate closed, and she turned around and got me between her and the gate. And I finally got moved, and she just stuck her head underneath that gate and it flew. So I actually had to rebuild the gate, get it secured up. She even tore a T-post out of the ground, if that'll tell you anything. And that thing was drove in there pretty good. And so it was a fight. And the boar, he would not move. There was nothing. He just wasn't going to have none of it. But we finally did get her moved, got her in the farrowing pen, and everybody's happy. Now, I also wanted to get Pee-wee moved back over with the boar. He wasn't going to have nothing to do with it either. And I said, you know what? I'm done with you. We'd already had our fill of frustration getting Coke moved. And about an hour trying to get Pee-wee to move, I said, we're done. He can stay over here with Peppa. And I've got Peppa and Pee-wee separated from the pregnant girl for Coke, and got her in her own farrowing pen, just simply because I didn't want her to have piglets or, going through the birth process and everything with Peppa in there, interfering with her or anything like that. So that's the update with the process here, or the progress here so far. Hopefully we get the electric done today, and then we can run down to the wellhead and get all that taken care of, hopefully within the next, hopefully 2 weeks or so. We'll see how it goes. And that is, of course, the availability of the well company. They're going to come back once we get electric set down there, and they'll run they'll hook the pump up and the pressure tank and everything like that, and then they'll run a hydrant off of the well for us and set it wherever we want it. So it'll be right here where the greenhouse is going to go. Now, after we get that done, then I have to take a water sample. I have to send a water sample to Penn State per the NRCS USDA regulations. It has to go to Penn State and get tested. I also ordered my own home test that'll go to national laboratories and get tested. And they'll do pretty much a gauntlet of tests on it and everything. The big things is organics, inorganics, dissolved metals and stuff like that. But arsenic tends to be one of the bigger things you have to worry about with well water. And that's pretty much everywhere. Thankfully, being up here, it shouldn't be too much of an issue. If the well produces as well as we hope it does, even if we run it to the house, I'm going to look at, later on, if we decide to run it to the house, if it's a good producing well, then we're going to go ahead and get a filtration system set up. And that's, and I know I've said this before, but that's a huge step towards freedom, is having our own water supply here. That way we're not exposed to the amount of chemicals that's used in municipal water, the dissolved pharmaceuticals and everything else that that is in water. And the dissolved pharmaceuticals, of course, can't be removed unless you use like reverse osmosis. And when you go that route, then you kind of tend to lose a lot of the good minerals and stuff that's in good groundwater, or in well water for that matter. So ultimately, my vision for this farm is of course 100% first and foremost for my kids and my family. The greenhouse, the high tunnel, that's going to be to expand our growing abilities. I looked up just earlier before I even started this video how many food recalls there are for mislabeling, undeclared ingredients, unintentional ingredients, allergens and stuff like that, and not to mention, how many of them were declared a public health crisis because of contamination and stuff like that, and from like the different bacterias and everything else like you get with Listeria, E. coli, Salmonella, things like that. And in today's society, in the system that we have, you would think that they would have better checks and balances in place to prevent that kind of stuff, but they don't. When you think about the grand scheme of things, there was, of those food recalls in 2022, there was 37 big companies that were affected, and they said negatively were affected by the recalls. And you have to worry about that because those 37 companies, those are usually your biggest producers and everything. And that's one of the biggest issues that we face in this country, is because we have so few big corporations who pretty much corner the market and just overwhelm the market with the products that they produce. So bigger doesn't always mean better. And clearly it does not mean safer. So, that's one of the biggest reasons why. And I know I've touched on this with other videos and stuff, but, having your fresh produce here that you can grow, same with your animals, how they were raised, who raised them, and pretty much what's in them. And if you do a clean approach like we are trying to do with our animals and what we plan to do with our gardens and everything, right there's a compost pile I've already got cooking. That's horse manure from a local friend who has a couple horses. And, she doesn't spray her meadows or anything like that. And those are grass clippings from my yard. And clearly I do not spray my yard with anything. So that's good. Natural can be compost that we'll use once we get the high tunnel up. And I'll continue to add to that as, we move along here. Every time I cut grass, I use the lawn sweeper sitting right there. And I sweep up my clippings and I put it in there and I mix it all up and let it cook down real good. Now there's a couple trees, these two cherry trees right here, that I have to cut down. And what doesn't get used for firewood, I have a chipper that goes on the back of my tractor that I'll chip all that up and add to it and let it compost down as well. And I purposely waited. The green on those trees is what you want to add that carbon to your compost. So as I chip those little limbs and those leaves up and stuff like that, I'll immediately mix it right into that, and that'll have me a good hot compost pile that'll just really break down into all the good nutrients and stuff that we need. I still have to do soil testing, and I ordered just a soil plug sampler. I got it, and I just need to go through, and I think I need to have about a cup to 2 cups or a cup and a half total of soil from all the different spots around where we're going to put the greenhouse. So that'll be easy enough. I'll stay away from the compost pile, and I'll kind of stay away from this rock dust where they did where they drilled for the well. And I'll just get along the leading edge over there and right down through the middle and stuff. And I should be able to get enough samples out of that to get adequate testing done. It's a process that has to be done. Like I said, the well has to be tested. My main goal is to get everything done with the well, get them to come out here and certify it after everything's said and done. They reimburse us that money. Then I can turn around and put that money towards the purchase of the high tunnel. So I'm waiting to find out more information. I reached out, welcome to Appalachia. So I reached out to my local contacts with the West Virginia Department of Ag, and trying to get some information from some people who are around here, like CPAs and accounting firms and stuff like that, who are familiar with agricultural practices and all the benefits of the tax deductions and stuff. And everything that I've read so far, and I'm just trying to get confirmation, is that if the projects that you get funded for through NRCS or fall under the EQIP program, it's EQIP, and they've been labeled as conservation type projects, like with the greenhouse or the high tunnel, the high tunnel, it's considered for soil and water conservation, that there is a potential. Now, until I get confirmation, of course, I don't know for sure, but it seems to be leading to, if the funding falls under the EQIP programs for conservation of soil and water, then you don't have to include that in earned income. So I wouldn't have to report that as part of income on our annual taxes. And let me tell you, that would be a huge relief, because I think the high tunnel itself is going to cost us, because if we're going to spend the money like we've already planned and budgeted for, it's going to be close to $12,000. And that's going to give me a good double layer greenhouse that has it's inflated. So between the two layers of the sheeting and stuff, the plastic, it keeps it inflated all the time. And that gives you better insulation value and everything. So I'm going to go ahead and do the metal end walls on it with solid panels on each end wall. Because again, I mean, if we're going to spend the money, I'm not going to, pardon the expression, half-ass it. We're going to go all the way, and that way we have a good quality structure that's going to last and will allow us to grow what we want to grow, and hopefully, as in, you know, vegetables and produce, but also hopefully get us, you know, the ability to grow better and more produce for not only our consumption, but to sell as part of the farm business. I could sit here all day and just, with the research and stuff that I do, not only for my job and everything like that, but for my own knowledge and everything to pass on to my kids and stuff. And I could just, I could give you 1,000,001 reasons, probably more, why this is so important to me. But first and foremost, it is for my family, it's for my children, and you know, food security, food safety, and making sure that my kids are eating the best food that they can possibly eat. And I can think of nothing better than that would even top that, or even come close to even approaching the quality of food, than for us to grow right here in the soil that we live on, utilizing compost from everything right here. So better nutritional value and better safety all the way around. And when it comes to fertilizers, I've got the Wabbitat down there with 4 bunnies right now that are producing gold. They are producing absolute gold when it comes to providing fertilizer for our plants and stuff. I mean, our raised beds are just, they have taken off. And thank the Lord we've got rain, because it rained again most of the day today. And I mean, we were in desperate need of the rain because it was really dry here. So looking at labels and stuff like that, we are not going to pursue anything to be labeled as organic or anything like that. I'm not going to go that route because, again, and I've said this before, is that it's a formality. There's so many ways around it, and I'm just not going to go that route. So I think, if I remember correctly, like 82 to 84% of West Virginia's agricultural products are related to animals. So like 82 to 84% of what West Virginia produces as an agricultural state is all animal products. And, you know, we do have 4 seasons here, 5 if you count mud, because we have a good considerable amount of that. So the prospect of, you know, expanding the products from a farm to include fresh local produce, there's such a demand for that. And August 23rd, I'm going to go spend a day with it's called Farmacy, F-A-R-M-A-C-Y, and it's put on by West Virginia University. There's a doctor that's involved in it, and some dietitians and some local healthcare providers and local growers. And it's an amazing system, and I really hope, and I'm not going to impose on anybody there, but I hope to get a little video on there about what they do and everything like that, and get some more information. But you know, pull up West Virginia, or, you know, if you're from West Virginia, you're interested in it, West Virginia Farmacy, F-A-R-M-A-C-Y program. And it's a great program from everything that I've read and the people that I've talked to. So, you know, you look at today, how we live. You know, every time I drive by a Starbucks, they're lined up around the building. People are always at fast food restaurants. People are going out and eat so much, and that's all right every once in a while. But, you know, people are so dependent on a consumer-driven system today that it's scary. It really is, because if you think that something bad that could happen, and God knows, the last few years, that's been an eye-opener for anybody who's ever paying attention. That, you know, if you can't have, or you don't have access to local produce, if you're not growing any of your own, if you don't have backyard chickens for eggs and stuff, and you have that ability, I can't emphasize and encourage people enough to do those kind of things. And I get so happy to see my friends on social media who are doing more of that themselves, and showcasing that they're canning what they've grown out of their garden. They've bought local fruits and stuff like that, and they're canning that and putting that away. And that to me, it makes me smile, because it just shows people taking a step to provide for themselves, knowing that there is security in that food is put together and processed and canned and stored by their own hands, and was grown in their own yard, in their own garden, or little containers on their own property. If there's ever been a time in human history It was just the history of the United States alone, for people to step back and go back to their roots, go back to the way that things used to be, the way that people used to provide for themselves and had that added security. You can't look at any better time than right now. There is so much uncertainty in this world. Society, in my opinion, and from what I see, is just falling apart. I had to go to my hometown a couple days ago, and I had to go downtown to go to the post office to pick up the chicks. The Niederrheiners came, and I rarely get down in that area, and I was just taken aback by just the destitute, the people, the destitute people, the vagrants, the people just walking along. Just 33 years in healthcare, you can usually tell when somebody's under the influence. And let me tell you, it was in that small town, that small city. It was just, I drove through there and I was like, I cannot believe what I'm seeing. And this is the county that I worked in as a paramedic for 13 years. And that city, being the county seat of that county, is where we were based out of. And, so all 911 calls in a city we responded to, and most throughout the county. Now, there was a couple other little ambulance agencies attached to fire departments that did, other parts of the county, but we also covered for them when they couldn't get an ambulance out when they needed. And I tell you, just seeing that, and it's not just that town, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. I mean, honest to goodness, I go to any small town, any city around here and everything like that, and you see it en masse. But it was sad to see what I seen down there. And it just reinforces my thoughts, my motivations, and what I want to see from our farm tenfold. Just tenfold. Our society is, man, I don't even know how to describe it. Probably the best way for me to elaborate on this is for me to say that it's because of what I see today is why I'm doing what I'm doing. Aside from my absolute love of what I'm doing, I want nothing more than to have that security, to know at the end of my time on this planet that my kids have the availability, the option, and the knowledge and skills to do and continue to produce and raise their own food, at least for their own safety and security. To know how to and follow, by the examples that we set, to raise good, clean, nutritious food and not be dependent on a consumer-driven system that is just falling apart. And it is every day. It's not getting better. And with everything that we see today, I don't foresee it ever getting any better, at least in probably the next 20 years. I don't believe there's going to be one candidate out there for president, for Congress, for Senate, whatever, that's going to do anything to make things better in a short period of time. There is a long road ahead of us to try to recover from and rebuild what has been destroyed in this century alone. So doom and gloom aside, and like I said, that these are my views. This is what I see, and from my observations, this is what my deductions. And it's a terrible future in my eyes for people who can't provide for themselves and their own family by any means of going back to growing their own food and stuff. So if you've got children in your life and you do any kind of farming or even just growing a garden or anything like that, I'm going to highly encourage you, if you don't, start getting your kids involved. Reach out to these young people. If you're a single person or a single married couple and you do this kind of stuff, invite children and their parents from your neighborhood over. Teach them this stuff. Put that knowledge and those skills in their minds and their hands. Let them get their fingers dirty. Let them grow some vegetables. Let them be able to taste what is grown out of the soil that they live on. Give them that opportunity. Farming is not glamorous by any stretch. It is not something you're going to get rich doing, but it's honorable. It's a value that you just can't even place a price on, because it is security, it's self-reliance, it's self-sufficiency, it's safety. If you ever wonder, I don't put my kids on these videos. I don't want my kids on my videos, not because I'm a mean, selfish person. I don't even like to put my wife on a lot of videos because it's social media. My intent is to reach out and let people know and let them follow the journey that we're on to do better for ourselves, to do better for our food, and to be able to hopefully in the near future to provide these products for our community and people who need access to them, because I mean the access is just not there. It's really not. If I go to Walmart right now, and this has been proven time and time again, and I buy a bag of iceberg or romaine lettuce for salads, I come home in 3 days or less, you can't eat that stuff. It's rotten, it's wilted, it's nasty. And that pretty much goes with all produce. Usually within 3 days of buying it at the store, it's gone. It's just, you can't eat it at that point. And God knows our society, our children, they need direction, they need a purpose, they need good motivation. And if we can share these skills and this knowledge with people, to let them get their hands in the soil, let them taste the fruits of their labor, so to speak, being a tomato, a cucumber, green beans, an apple off an apple tree, peaches, or even berries that you grow. That can mean a world of difference for people who think they have no future. For these kids who look at, being dependent on their parents, being dependent on assistance all the time, because they don't, maybe they don't know, maybe they just lack the motivation and the will, because our consumer-driven society, in my opinion, takes the will away from people. Because why should I go through all the work of planting and growing and having chickens and stuff when I can just go to the store and get it? So please understand, I'm not on some kind of moral soapbox here, and I'm not trying to portray that. But what I want to do is I want to tell you, man, take that step. If you've got to get 5-gallon buckets, get some potting soil, some garden soil, drill a couple holes in the bottom of that bucket, put it on your porch, put it on your balcony, put it on your deck, put it on your patio. Just build a raised bed, or buy the little already pre-made raised beds and put some soil and stuff in it and plant some plants. And I think you're going to find that if you've never done that, or you remember as a kid how good it was and how fun it was to go out in the garden and pick a tomato or pick a cucumber and have a little shaker of salt with you and just go at it, man, there's nothing better than that. Kids, you ask a kid if they want to go berry picking, kids are going to be like, yeah, berries, man. Going to go pick berries off of a plant, take a walk in the woods, go get some berries and eat some berries and collect them. Kids, the joy in their eyes, they taste that, and it's like, you could just see a whole world opening up to them, and they just give them that chance, give them that opportunity, teach them. For God's sake, we're living in the age of knowledge, of information. At the click of a button, I mean on a cell phone, like I do all my videos on. You have access to the world's knowledge out there. YouTube is phenomenal. I have learned so much. Almost everything that I do on this farm, I've learned off of YouTube. I've watched people put videos out of how they tried, they failed, they found a right way, or they found a way that works. And I take those and I work with that information and apply those skills, and maybe it works better for me in one way, or it works just exactly the way that they did and it works out fine. But you have to take the reins. We have to be responsible enough now today to lead people in the right way, because God knows our society is not doing that. God knows that our elected officials are not doing that. I had to change positions here. It's sun come out after all the rain. It's getting really hot and it got bright. So we have to do more for ourselves. We can't be dependent on a system that is failing and continues to fail us, not only with safety, but reliability. And the prices keep going up. Yes, there is some money investment when you grow your own and do your own stuff like that, but it's worth it. It's absolutely 100% worth it in the end. I could make a whole series of videos based on the health of America today. The people that I see and I take care of, the conditions that they experience, and not to be rude here, but the excuses that they make in relation to their health. So if you ever listen to anything, I'm just going to tell you, take the time to do it. Take the time to get your hands in the dirt, in the soil, and grow something. As always, Get and stay prepared. Take care. God bless.